The trauma patient was coding, and Dr. Kim needed an extra pair of hands. "You!" she called to the security guard passing by. "Help me!" Frank Williams stepped forward without hesitation. But as he assisted with the life-saving procedure, "Doctor," Kim noticed his hands, steady, trained, scarred. These weren't the hands of a security guard. When she asked about his medical training, his answer changed everything she thought she knew about the quiet man who'd walked their halls for 2 decades. Welcome to Hidden Warriors. Before we begin this incredible story of hidden service and unexpected heroism, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button and help us honor the warriors hiding in plain sight. Memorial Hospital looked different at 2 a.m. The bright fluorescent lights cast long shadows down empty corridors, and the only sounds were the distant hum of machines and the soft footsteps of night shift staff. Frank Williams had walked these halls for 20 years, every night, same routine. Security rounds at 2:15, check the parking garage, verify all access doors, return to the main desk by 3 o'clock, clock in, clock out, invisible to most of the medical staff who passed him like furniture. Dr. Lisa Kim was finishing her shift in the trauma unit. She'd been at Memorial for 3 years, and like most doctors, she barely noticed the security guards. They were just part of the background, checking badges, making sure doors were locked. Frank was different from the younger guards, though. He moved with purpose, not the casual stroll of someone killing time until morning. His eyes constantly scanned, not obviously, but with the subtle awareness of someone who'd learned to watch for threats. That night, as Frank was passing the trauma bay during his rounds, the emergency radio crackled to life. "Incoming trauma, ETA 3 minutes. Motor vehicle accident, critical injuries, possible internal bleeding." Dr. Kim immediately began preparing the trauma room. IVs, monitors, surgical instruments. She worked quickly but methodically, her hands moving with the precision of years of training. When the paramedics burst through the doors, Frank stepped aside, watching from the hallway. The patient was a 34-year-old construction worker named David Martinez. Unconscious, pale, blood pressure dropping rapidly. "He's coding," Dr. Kim called out as the monitors began showing dangerous readings. "I need assistance." The trauma team rushed in, but in the chaos of the emergency, Dr. Kim found herself short-handed. The other doctor was dealing with a second victim from the same accident, and the nurses were overwhelmed. "You," she called out to Frank, who was standing just outside the trauma bay. "I need help." Without hesitation, Frank stepped forward, immediately washing his hands and putting on gloves like he'd done it 1,000 times before. "Hold pressure here, doctor," Kim instructed, pointing to a bleeding wound on the patient's abdomen. Frank's hands moved to the exact spot, applying firm, consistent pressure without being told how much force to use. Dr. Kim was focused on establishing an airway, but something caught her attention. Frank's hands weren't shaking. Most civilians, even hospital staff, showed some nervousness during trauma situations. But Frank's hands were rock steady, his breathing controlled. "I need you to help me turn him," Dr. Kim said, preparing to check for spinal injuries. Frank positioned himself perfectly, supporting the patient's head and neck with textbook precision. "Have you done this before?" Dr. Kim asked, not taking her eyes off her work. "A long time ago," Frank replied simply. As the emergency continued, Dr. Kim noticed more details. Frank anticipated her needs, handing her instruments before she asked. When she needed to intubate the patient, Frank automatically adjusted the overhead light to the perfect angle. These weren't the actions of someone who'd learned basic first aid. This was advanced medical training. "Pressure's dropping again," Frank said, reading the monitors with the fluency of someone who understood what the numbers meant. Dr. Kim looked at him sharply. Security guards didn't typically know how to read cardiac monitors. Frank, where did you learn to do this? Frank didn't answer immediately. He was focused on the patient, whose breathing had become more labored. He's got a pneumothorax, Frank said quietly. Left side. You can see the chest rise asymmetry. Dr. Kim's hands stopped moving. A pneumothorax, collapsed lung, was something only medical professionals would recognize by sight. And Frank was right. The patient's left chest wasn't rising properly. I need to decompress, doctor, Kim said, reaching for a large bore needle. Second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line, Frank said automatically, then caught himself. Dr. Kim stared at him. That was textbook placement for emergency decompression. No security guard would know that terminology. She inserted the needle, and immediately the patient's breathing improved. Blood pressure started to stabilize. Frank, Dr. Kim said slowly, what's your medical background? Frank looked at her with those steady eyes she'd seen in the hallway for 3 years. I used to be a medic, military. What unit? Frank hesitated. Special operations, a long time ago. As the patient stabilized and was prepared for surgery, Dr. Kim couldn't stop staring at Frank. Everything made sense now. The precision, the knowledge, the unshakable calm under pressure. How long were you a medic? 18 years, Frank said, stripping off his gloves. Army Special Forces. Dr. Kim's eyes widened. Special Forces medics weren't just first aid providers. They were trained to perform surgery in combat conditions, to save lives with minimal equipment under enemy fire. Why didn't you ever mention this? We could have used someone with your skills. Frank smiled slightly. I'm just security now. Different life. But Dr. Kim wasn't satisfied. She'd worked with military medics before, and Frank's skills went beyond basic special forces training. The way he'd handled the trauma, the immediate recognition of the pneumothorax, the precise terminology. This was advanced training. Frank, what specialty were you? Frank paused, clearly uncomfortable. I did some advanced training, trauma surgery, emergency medicine, deployed with Delta Force units. Dr. Kim felt her breath catch. Delta Force medics were legendary in military medical circles. They were doctors without degrees, surgeons without hospitals, capable of performing life-saving procedures in the worst possible conditions. You could be working as a physician assistant, maybe even complete medical school with your background. Why security? Frank looked down the hallway where other patients were being treated. Some people serve loud, some serve quiet. I chose quiet. Dr. Kim studied his face, and that's when she noticed them. Small scars on his hands, faded, but visible under the hospital lights. Scars from improvised surgery tools, from working in conditions no civilian doctor ever would. How many lives have you saved? I don't keep count, Frank said. But tonight, we saved David Martinez together. That's what matters. Over the next few weeks, Dr. Kim found herself paying attention to Frank in ways she never had before. She noticed how he moved through the hospital, not like security, but like medical staff. He instinctively avoided patient rooms during procedures, stepped aside for medical equipment, and somehow always seemed to be nearby during emergencies. One night during a particularly busy shift, Dr. Kim approached Frank during his break. I looked up Delta Force medical training, she said. It's classified, but I found some general information. Those medics go through training equivalent to emergency medicine residency. Some even get surgical training that rivals trauma surgeons. Frank sipped his coffee, saying nothing. I also found out that many of them struggle to transition to civilian medical careers. Bureaucracy, insurance, regulations. It's different from saving lives in the field. It is, Frank agreed. Is that why you chose security? Less complicated? Frank considered this. In the army, when someone was hurt, you did whatever it took to save them. No insurance forms, no liability concerns, just training and instinct. Here it's different, safer, but different. Dr. Kim nodded. But your skills, they're too valuable to waste on security rounds. I'm not wasting them, Frank said quietly. I've helped save 14 people since I started working here. Heart attacks in the parking lot, overdoses in the bathroom, accidents in the cafeteria. Most people never knew I was involved. Dr. Kim stared at him. 14 people? Last month, a visitor collapsed in the lobby. Cardiac arrest. I started CPR before the code team arrived. 2 weeks ago, a patient's family member had an allergic reaction to something in the vending machine. I recognized anaphylaxis and got the epinephrine from emergency supplies. Frank stood up, his break ending. I don't need credit, Doctor. Kim, I just need to help. As he walked away, Dr. Kim realized something profound. Frank hadn't retired from medicine. He just found a different way to practice it. 3 months later, Dr. Kim was reviewing quarterly incident reports when she noticed a pattern. Emergency response times had improved significantly over the past year. Patient outcomes in critical situations were better than statistical averages. Most remarkably, several security assists had resulted in saved lives. She brought this to the attention of Dr. Patricia Hayes, the chief of emergency medicine. Frank Williams, Dr. Hayes said when Kim explained the situation. Our night security guard. He's not just security, Dr. Kim explained. He's a former Delta Force medic with advanced trauma training. He's been quietly assisting in medical emergencies for years. Dr. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Are you suggesting we offer him a position in medical staff? I'm suggesting we recognize what he's already been doing. A week later, Frank was called to Dr. Hayes' office. He expected a routine security matter, but instead found Dr. Kim waiting with the chief of staff. Frank, Dr. Hayes began, we'd like to offer you a position as emergency medical technician, with the opportunity to advance to physician assistant if you're interested in additional certification. Frank looked surprised. I appreciate that, but I'm happy with my current position. Are you? Dr. Kim asked. Because we've documented 14 documented life-saving interventions in the past year alone. You're practicing medicine whether you admit it or not. Frank smiled. I told you, I serve quiet. Then serve quiet in a medical role, Dr. Hayes said. Same shift, same halls, but with the authority to do what you've been doing all along. Frank considered this. After 20 years of walking hospital corridors as security, the idea of officially returning to medicine felt both terrifying and natural. Would I still do security rounds? If you want, Dr. Hayes said. But you'd also be part of the medical team. Frank nodded slowly. Then yes, I accept. 6 months later, Frank Williams wore scrubs instead of a security uniform. He still walked the same halls, still worked the night shift, still served quietly. But now, when emergencies arose, he didn't have to pretend to be just a security guard. Dr. Kim often worked with him during trauma cases. His hands were still steady, his knowledge still vast, his presence still calming. But now everyone knew what she discovered that night with David Martinez, that sometimes the most skilled healers are the ones who never ask for recognition. They just show up, do the work, and save lives. One quiet shift at a time. So I ask you, have you ever met someone like Frank Williams? Someone whose true skills were hidden behind a simple job title? Someone who served without recognition, helped without credit? Share their story in the comments. Because at Hidden Warriors, we believe the most powerful healers often work in the shadows, and the greatest heroes are the ones who never call themselves heroes. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe and help us honor the hidden warriors among us. We'll see you in the next story.